Good morning. I would like to welcome my listeners and viewers in the United States and all around the world. I am Vince Rocco, and it is Tuesday morning in New York City, so let's go behind the headlines and get the real story. But first, this is Talking New York Real Estate. Up front today, in the bustling landscape of New York City real estate, a new breed of young titans is rising to prominence, armed with ambition, innovation, and a keen understanding of market dynamics. These enterprising individuals, often fresh-faced and brimming with energy and making waves in an industry traditionally dominated by established players. Leveraging technology and data-driven strategies, they are redefining the playbook for success in New York City's competitive real estate scene. And becoming a real estate agent in New York City is as easy as taking the required classes and passing the real estate exam. But a lot of what you learn in classes won't apply in the real world of real estate, particularly here in this market. What makes a New York City agent better than another is their experience in the market and their knowledge of the product. The more deals an agent does, the more he or she learns about the market, the sales or rental processes, and its ups and downs. But even before your first deal, there are a variety of things an agent can do and must do to learn the business. And once your first deal is done, what you'll learn will begin the journey of a lifetime. And believe me, it's a lifetime. Also at this hour, millennials and Gen Z have made social media bigger than it ever was before. They were the first generation to rely on social media. You will almost never see a millennial or Gen Zer without their phone in their hand. As a result, social media is now bigger than ever, not only for social purposes, but for business as well. We will have all of that and so much more as Talking New York Real Estate gets underway on this Tuesday morning. But in the news this morning, first quarter results are in, and according to our chief economist, Greg Hein, things may be looking up. While the number of apartment closings in first quarter was just 2% below a year ago, it was the lowest total for the first quarter since 2009. The better than expected performance of the economy and persistent inflation led to an increase in mortgage rates to start 2024, which kept many buyers on the sidelines. The average resale price fell 3% compared to the first quarter of 2023, fueled by a decline in condo prices. The average condo price fell 11% over the past year, due in part to fewer high-end sales. Co-op prices fared better, averaging 5% more than a year ago. The Manhattan apartment market may have gotten off to a rough start in 24, but there are several reasons for optimism. Inflation is moving in the right direction, which should bring mortgage rates down in the coming months. The economy continues to outperform expectations and should be helped by Fed rate cuts later this year. Stocks had a first great quarter, with both the Dow and the S&P 500 indices finishing at record highs, and Wall Street paid $33.8 billion in cash bonuses for 2023. Great news for both New York City's economy and the housing market. And real estate developer Harry Macklow, who recently put his East Hampton home on the market, has run into a few snags that he is bound to impact the sale. Apparently, his luxury property on exclusive West End Avenue near Georgia Capon, for which he is asking $38 million, has some outstanding certificate of occupancy issues that will directly impact that sale. Soon after the home hit the market, the New York Post reported that the real estate developer neglected to get permission and permits from East Hampton Village to clear the land and build closer to the wetlands than was permissible. In the process, Macklow was reportedly fined for more than 21 violations that have not yet been paid. Here are 5 things to watch in 2024 and how they may affect the markets. Declining interest rates, stabilized inflation, New York City's budget crisis, changes to local zoning laws, and the presidential election coming up. And finally, Big Apple office buildings have never been so empty. With peak era of remote work may now feel so long ago, the number of vacant offices in Manhattan just hit a new record. The borough's office availability rate, or how much of that market is currently unfilled, hit 18.1% in the first quarter of this year, the highest rate ever recorded according to Cranes. And with me today are Mike Bussey from Real New York City Apartments, Kevin Salazar from Prestige Properties, Rye Myers from Corcoran, and Max Lippman from Brown Harris Stevens.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on set with me. I really appreciate it. And I've been looking forward really to this show for a very long time, as I was telling some of you offline. Booking the show always gets a little, traumatic sometimes. Agents are always so busy. Everybody in New York City is always so damn busy. We all know that. But trying to find the right, people for this particular episode, I think was a little more challenging. But you're here, and you're the right people. So thank you for that. Mike, I want to start with you because I've been following you on social media for a while now. And we'll talk about that later on in the social media conversation part of our day. But you are enormously successful on social media. But my first question to you is, as a young titan, as a new person in this business, why real estate? Why did you pick this as a profession? Do you love this business so much that you said, I want to be a real estate agent in New York City?
Yeah, and first of all, I appreciate the title, Young Titans. I think we can all, we all felt pretty good when we saw that come through. The reason I picked real estate, truthfully, was I was moving to New York City for college. I was trying to figure out where to get a job. I was going to rent an apartment. I ended up renting an apartment through the guy who owned the brokerage. And he was like, hey, his exact words were, you don't sound like an idiot. Do you want a job? And I go, no, I'm good, thanks. And then 2 weeks later, I was applying to work at Starbucks. And I called him and I was like, hey, I really, really, really need a job. And it just so happened, I loved real estate. I loved chatting with people. Everything just kind of fell into place. And also, I just can't work for anybody else. I'm sure we can all agree, working for yourself in this industry is the best feeling in the entire world. And, just the ability to stay motivated and do whatever I want, whenever I want, within reason, was the number one driving force. So that's what kept me here.
Staying motivated can be a challenge. We'll get to that in a minute. Rye, tell us a little bit about your beginnings in real estate. Why real estate? Why New York City real estate? And as I've said for years, if you sell New York City real estate, and you're good at it and you become successful at it, you can do it anywhere in the world, because what we do here in New York is bizarre. It's complicated. It's off the charts. No one understands it. But yet here we all are. So why?
Exactly. Well, thanks for having me, Vince. Appreciate it. Why? For me, there was nothing like New York City. When I fell in love with the city in 2010, when I first came here, I knew I wanted to be a part of it. And I love working for myself. I'm somebody that, working for somebody else has been really tough. Being your own CEO is appealing. And after years of liking real estate and, not thinking I could do it with what I was doing already in Broadway media and Broadway editorial, I realized that there's a career here for me. And looking at some of the agents that I've had experience with in the past, when I would rent and stuff like that, I was like, I want to give a better experience to people, and I love that.
I want to be better than them.
I want to be better than them, and I want to own a piece of the city. I want a little bite of the apple, and what better way to do so than real estate? I love it. I'm a people person. There's so much opportunity, and real estate for me was the only option, and I've never looked back.
Kevin, I met you a little while ago and impressed from day one. Tell me why, what, how, real estate, New York City. What goes on?
So thank you for having me, first of all.
My pleasure.
Yeah. I think we're all honored to be here. I think real estate for me is super appealing because of the endless possibilities that there are. Real estate is such a big industry, and there's so many different variations of it and so many different people involved. And so for me, I think that's one of the biggest appeals, that there's so many different directions to move with it. And obviously, working for yourself is obviously a great feeling, and the flexibility and the freedom you have with that. At the same time, you also don't. But I think it's great to have the endless possibilities with real estate.
I like that endless possibilities. I'm going to ask you about that in a minute. Max, you come from a different background, okay? All housing related, but you were in finance first. Now you're a real estate agent. What was the impetus for you to make that change, and why?
Sure. Well, also, thank you for having me. It's good to see you. So I was born and raised in New York City. The city is in my blood. I've always loved architecture, the different neighborhoods, real estate. It's always been something that's interested me. Real estate's in my family. I thought working in real estate finance was a great foray out of college into learning a different side of the market, but I always loved the sales aspect of it. And once I decided to go there, I haven't looked back. It's been so fun. Also, I'm not a huge sit at my desk all day person. It's really nice being able to get out there, walk around, meet lots of interesting people, the conversations. So it kind of is more unique than a lot of jobs, and it gives me an opportunity to always be out and about in the city that I love.
You know, it's so interesting. People always say, you know, oh, wow, I love your job because it's not 9 to 5. As Max just said, you don't sit at your desk every day. You don't have a boss over your shoulder, whatever. And I say, sure, it's not 9 to 5. Sure, you don't sit at your desk every day. It's 24/7. And, you know, without these things, you know, which I go to bed with and I wake up in the morning with, you know, this is your life. So, yeah, it's not 9 to 5, but, you know, it's more intense. Did you think it was going to be easy, Rye? I mean, you know, we all start new careers. I mean, I started 22 years ago after working in corporate America, and I thought, well, thank God that's over. And so this is going to be a breeze, until I realized it ain't a breeze.
I didn't think it was going to be easy, but I didn't expect it to be as hard as it is and has been, which has been great because it's challenged me and made me better. But I definitely, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's the hardest thing I'll probably ever do, but it just made me a better person. And of course, you know, I think I would be foolish to say that when I came in, there was a little bit of me that had those sort of things we see on TV where, not that it was going to be that easy, but you had those reality TV views where you thought, oh, maybe it's, you know, they can do it, why can't I?
Let's say it. $1 million listing made all of us think, wow.
A small part of it, but I knew it was going to be hard. But you saw some of those shows and you're like, well, you know,
I've
you
had
had
those guys
those
on my show in the
realities.
past.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I love that because it's pushed me, and I think that's the only way that I would have succeeded, is with how hard it is.
Mike, how do you keep motivated every day? I mean, again, as we said, it's a complicated business. It's challenging at its best, especially when you're beginning and you're trying to figure out, you know, who you are in this landscape, right?
Yeah.
We could be aggressive, we could be a whole bunch of things, smart as you all are, but how do you stay, you know, motivated? Because in this business, what you find is, just like in the acting business, okay, and I always say it's akin to the show business, there's more, you know, knockdowns and rejections than anything else. Where do you get that motivation from?
Yeah, I mean, so look, I was raised by entrepreneurs. My mother, my grandfather, my great-grandfather. Like, we have always just been motivated by, like, growth and moving forward, and that's kind of it. Look, we all know, like, you know, you can make a lot in real estate, you can do very well, but at the end of the day, like, solving every single deal as if it's a brand new type of puzzle is the most fun and engaging thing in the world.
It's a puzzle.
But look, I won't lie to you. There's some days where I'm sure we all wake up and we're like, I'm not leaving the apartment today. So it's tricky, and it's a day by day thing where it's like, how do I continue to stay motivated, and where do I find this motivation? And I wish I had a better answer for you, but we're all still looking.
I get it. Max, what about you? I mean, you know, this is something that I said, you know, can take a lot out of us, and especially when we're young and we're learning, not even young, but I came in the business, you know, in my 40s, and it's kind of like I still felt like, you know, I was a kid because I didn't know anything.
Right.
So that learning curve is significant. So how do you stay motivated?
Well, sometimes it's because you don't really have time to slow down. As you pointed out before,
that's
like,
true.
this isn't a 9 to 5 job. We have to be available when our clients are available, which is often outside of the 9 to 5, right? When they're not working,
Always.
when they're not on vacation. So sometimes, you know, that motivation is kind of, if it's not innate, you're kind of forced to have it if you want to succeed here, because you're constantly, you know, getting up for early morning showings, staying late, shutting down, working early on Sundays. So sometimes I don't even stop to think about, like, where this motivation is coming, because you're kind of just going and going. But at the same time, it's a sales business, right? We work on commission. You eat what you kill. So that motivation.
I like that. You eat what you kill. Okay.
Yeah, that motivation has to come from.
I'm going to steal that.
You should.
Okay.
Feel free to. I must have stolen it from someone at some point, right? Okay. So that motivation comes from you need to close that next deal to make money. It's not like we're on salary jobs here.
Well, well said, and good point, because, you know, what people out there, you know, don't necessarily understand is, you know, you're only as good as your last, again, the show business analogy, you're only as good as your last gig, okay? And if you close something as significant as it may be or not, you're like, okay, so what's next? What's down the road? What's in the future? Okay? And that I believe is always, you know, motivational. Kevin, how do you differentiate yourself between, you know, being new in the business and working up against, you know, the more senior people, the people who have been doing this job for a very long time, who may know a little more than we do, you know, that's just the way it is. How do you feel like you differentiate yourself, or maybe better said, when you're in front of clients, how do you convince them that, hey, I'm still going to be good. You know, I might not be, you know, whatever age, but I'm still going to be good.
I think I've made it a priority for myself to understand the way transactions function. and understand the way you need to actually work to make sure that the deal goes through and that you can get the best possible deal for your clients. I think if you make it a priority to understand how the business works, then eventually you will come to learn how it works, and with the experience, it'll all come to you. But I think something that's been super important to me has been having a mentor and letting people know that I have someone to rely on, that it's not just me, but rather that I work with a team of people. You're not just getting me, you're getting 5 other agents who have different experiences, and
That is also well said, and I say, back when I first became an agent, teams really didn't exist. Okay, you might have been some partnerships here and there, and maybe there was one team, wherever, or two, but teams didn't really exist. And today, I think teams are a great thing, and I think that for any newer agent coming on board in any company, the mentorship that's available in the team environment is, you can't buy that. You can't pay for that. As I said in the opening of the show, what you learn in school is book stuff. Just like you go back to your college days. Oh, I learned this and I learned that. When you get out on the street, you're like, what did I learn? Where did that 4 years go? I was thinking about beer and parties and whatever else, okay? Book work, big deal.
Right.
Feet on the street, on-the-job training, on-the-job experiences where you get it. Right, so in strategizing how to keep up with the more experienced agents, the team members, the mentors or whatever,
right,
how do you strategize, in wanting to be better than the next person? One of the things we always have very obvious in this business is a lot of competition.
Of course.
I don't remember the number, 15,000, 18,000 agents in New York City. It's a bizarre, stupid number.
Yeah.
But it exists. And just like in show business again, 20% of the people are doing 80% of the work,
right,
or 100% of the work, and 80% are doing nothing. How do you strategize it? What strategies do you use to keep yourself out front, on the firing line, but with relevance?
Right.
What do you think about every day? How do you deploy those strategies, etc.?
I think it's important to the strategies that I do and use is, what is that person not doing that I can do better? Looking obviously towards those senior people or the senior agents out of respect and for help and guidance where you can get it. But, what are they not doing? How do you embrace, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, social media? How do you reach out to the audience? If this way is a little too slow, how can we do it more efficient, more faster? Making things a little bit more easier for clients instead of the old, I don't say the old way, but there's a traditional way. Now in 2024, things are ever evolving, ever changing. So sort of having your finger, for me, it's having my finger on the pulse of, ever changing, and talking with other agents too, right? I think the biggest thing is collaboration. I come at it of, we're all in this together. I know a lot of agents who keep to themselves, don't want help, don't want to work with others. For me, you don't know unless you learn, and hearing how other newer agents are also, what are they doing? What are you working on? What software or what technological advances are you doing, and how did that help you, your deal, and your clients? And I think once you do learn that, you never know. I've done a few things where some senior agents in the office have said, "Oh, how did you do that?" or something, and then I've explained it to them, and I don't know whether they've implemented it, but that's always nice, But I think having respect for your senior agents, especially those who I think can help you down the line, is important as well.
And asking questions, absolutely.
Yes.
All right, we have to take a break. No one's going anywhere. These are the young titans in New York City real estate. This is Talking New York Real Estate.
What do you really need to know about buying or selling a home? First, it's serious business, and it's complicated. There's a lot of money on the table, and emotion too. You need an agent who knows the ropes. So, whether you're buying or selling your home, work with professionals who have a mastery of the craft.
All right, Mike, so I want to get back to the innovative strategies that we all use and deploy in our daily life. Do you spend a lot of time during a day or before your day starts, or maybe even the night before, thinking about, what is it that I want to do differently tomorrow? What is it that I want to do maybe better than I did today or yesterday? What kind of strategies go through your mind? And how competitive, here's a question, how competitive is it for your own self to kind of best the last time you came up with a strategy or the last time you did something and, well, maybe it didn't really kind of work well. So do you go through that at all in your day-to-day, thinking or approach?
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly thinking of how can I do this better? And it's terrible to say it, but like there's such an easy gauge where like, if I post a video of an apartment and it gets 1 million views, tomorrow I have to do one that does 2 million. Yeah. That's just how it is.
There
it's
you
just
go.
How do I do it? What did well?
Yep.
And we're kind of fortunate in this age. There's so many analytics available to us where it's so easy to look and say like, oh, this worked, that didn't work. But yeah, I mean, you constantly have to best yourself. If I did a deal for $1 million today, I better be doing a deal for 10 million tomorrow. And it's just that constant grind and trying to get there.
That's a very productive strategy, and I totally agree with that because, even back to when I was in my corporate days, it's always like, okay, so, and I'm going to read something at the end of the session today in the close, you're always trying to be better than the person you were yesterday.
Yeah.
Whether it's personally, whether it's professionally, whether it's, you had some success, as you said, so I sold $1 million apartment, so tomorrow I got to sell a $2 million apartment.
Yep.
Because the key to continuing the success that you find as newer agents in this town is to keep going and to keep making yourself better and to keep doing better with every deal you do. Max, so again with the innovative strategies, when you wake up in the morning, is it like the first thing you think about, like, what am I going to do today? Or is it kind of like, well, I did this yesterday and I really want to make this better? Or someone is pushing and tugging at me to do this, but I really think that maybe that is better?
I think it's a combination of all those things, right? It depends on the day. Sometimes you kind of have your more macro things you want to tackle it won't necessarily be like today I'm completing this task, but then you have your micro tasks that you need to do. I mean, if the deal is on, like working on a board package isn't necessarily something you need to do. I need to finish this today. That, is a couple week long process.
Right.
While preparing a pitch and, making sure you're ready to try to pitch an apartment, you need to do, that's something, it's like, this is what I need to do today. This is priority number one. So I think it really it shifts and it changes depending on the day. I mean, that's our business, right? Like it's not monotonous. It's never the same thing. It really just depends on what's going on.
Yeah. All right. So Kevin, how do you navigate, relationships and partnerships with some of the older, more established agents in town? Because, quite frankly, there's a lot more of those than there are of you guys. And so, the old, way of thinking, I know better than everybody, even when they don't. But you have to, as a newer agent, kind of figure out and navigate and build a relationship. And even if you're not on the team, okay, you're just co-brokers, right? And when I'm teaching continuing ed, I always say, love your co-broker, because, if you don't, you're going to set yourself up for a deal that's not going to go very smoothly. And we all know what that can be like. So, how do you, navigate working with different people? And again, I say it all the time, everybody is a different person. Every agent in this town has a different personality. And sometimes you go home and the rocks in your head are banging from side to side, and you want to stick your head in the vodka bottle, okay? How do you do this? I mean, how do you kind of figure out, how do I need to be with this one versus how do I need to be with that one? And what really works for you?
Yeah, I've met all sorts of agents. I've met very mean, very nice,
Really?
I've met them all, I think.
I'm kidding.
And I feel like you just always have to kind of be yourself and be the best professional version of yourself.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of value in meeting other agents and having relationships, especially with more experienced agents. I've met people who are like, why would I want to meet agents? Like, I want to meet clients. But sometimes those relationships can be very useful, whether it's for like mentorship or 100%. For referrals or whatever it may be. So definitely having those relationships with experienced agents is super important for a new agent, I think.
Right. Your opinion?
I agree. I think, leaning on those older agents who have that experience is vital. Being yourself is really how I approach it, and if that's not something for you, then maybe, I won't work with you then, but this is who I am. And, understanding also everyone's idiosyncrasies. Agents are all different, and just reaching out how you can be of service to them through whether that's, open houses or helping, et cetera, stuff like that. One of the things that you said earlier too, why I think also like tying back to what you said was, I use co-broker go broke as they say,
I'm stealing that one too.
There
you go.
Somebody in my office said that, and meeting these agents at the end of the day and networking, you never know who's going to help who. And while yes, it's about the clients, I look at it as we are constantly expanding your network. I have met agents, even in working on my listing that I was working on, who have said, "Oh my gosh, you've been so pleasant to work with. You've been so great or so informative," and that makes a difference because then I know, well, the next listing that I have, hopefully that agent brings, a qualified buyer and will remember, oh, Rye was great to deal with. I just think, again, it sort of goes back to that community feeling of helping everyone out because at the end of the day, we all want to do deals. We want to make money, but you can't do it without the help of a fellow agent. And again, that even goes for outside referrals too. As you meet agents, we're here in New York City, but as you meet agents who are elsewhere, you could very well say, hey, John, I've got a client looking out in Miami, I thought of you, could you, and then there you go. So I think it's all about how you approach it. But I also think too that, just being yourself, but also remember to be respectful too at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, one of the things I teach agents in continuing ed class again is, we are all human beings and your reputation precedes you, okay? Yes. If you have a great reputation in this town, if you have a great reputation in this industry, people know that because there are too many others, sadly or unfortunately, that do not. So I get it, you're correct. Mike, what are your thoughts on this as you navigate your day? You do a lot of business on the rental side. You deal with a lot of referral people. You deal with a lot of co-broking people. Mm-hmm. You deal with a lot of clients who come to you, leads. And not every client is perfect either. Mm-hmm. So how do you kind of negotiate and deal with the relationships, especially if they're a lot older? And as I said earlier, I think I know everything. I don't need you to tell me, right?
I mean, I will say, first of all, I love every client. I just want to be clear about that. Every client's a great client. But no, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. If we're talking like co-broke specifically, is so many brokers view it as like a competition. Like they're on this side, I'm on my side, I'm on my client side. When you guys are co-broking a deal, like you are on the same team and you need to be honest with each other. Like, hey, this is a weakness that I have. I'm sure you're way more experienced. It's just going to make the deal go way easier. You're both getting paid the same. You should be sharing the work. And that's just kind of how I look at it. Because we've all been in deals where the other broker is mean or they're this or they're that. And you're nervous to be like, hey, board packager's having an issue. I don't want to go to them. And then you're doing a disservice to your client. You're doing a disservice to them. You're doing a disservice to yourself.
You got to work for the deal.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to work for the deal and you have to work for the client because at the end of the day, they are always the people who come first. You know, a lot of times when I'm teaching, people don't realize, and I say, where's your fiduciary responsibility? And they're like, whoa, and I'm like, no, it's to your client, especially to your seller. Why? Because they pay you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you work for and you address the people in professional ways that pay you. I mean, it's very simple, right? Co-broke or go broke? That just popped into
Somebody
my head.
said that at my office months ago, and I love it. I think of it all the time.
I love that.
It's true.
Max, in what ways do you think backgrounds or experiences of newer agents, contribute to the success in this business? Okay, so I'm old enough to be all your fathers, probably. So I started later in my career. I had 20 years in corporate America. You guys really probably not that long out of college, right? Young, smart, good-looking people, but you're up against all of these older people. Right, so your backgrounds, so much more than a lot of the, and no offense meant, older agents, so much more, right? Feet on the ground, as I said in the opening, social media, you're all over social media, you got your phone in your hand constantly. How do you think that, or being younger, helps you in this business, this overcrowded, overloaded business?
Because, we talked about it a bit.
I look to you guys, honestly, and I admire all of you, and folks who are as strong, as you are, because your futures are amazing, or can be amazing.
Right. I think a lot of it has to do, we talked about a bit with hunger, right? We're earlier in our careers. Yeah. We're more junior, so there's a bit more of a drive and a hunger to succeed. I also think, not to say that more experienced people, that there's always arrogance there, but there's more of an ego that's been built up. and sometimes having
A little bit of arrogance.
a little bit of arrogance too.
I can say it.
Sometimes confidence. Sometimes it bleeds into arrogance. But I think that lack of that arrogance from being more junior and being newer to the business can often help you, because you don't necessarily think that, whether not too good for anything, but that, nothing is beneath you. You're always willing to help someone out. I mean, going a little bit back to co-broking and interacting with more established agents, I think it's really important to have a great relationship with them, because you never know when they're going to feed you business, especially when you're at like a larger company like Corcoran. You never know when there's a broker who primarily really only likes to work uptown. It's like, hey, there's something in Brooklyn or downtown.
Exactly. Oh my God.
I don't want to go down there.
Yeah.
So it really behooves you to establish good relationships and have a good level of respect, but also know that you're a peer and a colleague. They're not, necessarily better or higher up than you because they've been doing this a lot longer.
Right.
And that can end up benefiting you.
Mm-hmm.
And and also the smarter older agent, or the agent who's been in the business for a long time, again, not to be offensive to anybody, I can speak for myself. I can learn from you all, okay? Because you have a whole different perspective on stuff.
Yes.
Whether it's how you can relate to a client, how you find clients, how you engage in social media, and after the break we'll talk about that. But I can learn from you folks. And as I like to say all the time, look, regardless of what industry you're in, if you can't learn something every day from the people that you engage with, it's kind of like, all right, hang it up and go home. What you're wasting your time.
Right.
I'm maybe that inquisitive. I'm maybe that kind of learning oriented. That when I get up in the morning, I do say this: what am I going to learn today, and from whom? And even if I'm working from home today and I don't even leave the apartment other than to run to the store and get something, right? Because you're interacting either in a Zoom call or on a phone call, or a client calls you. What am I going to learn, right? Kevin, how do you feel your younger background against all these older, experienced agents? What do you feel like you bring to the table, and how can you learn from people who have been doing this for a long time, or can you?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think there's so much to be learned from more experienced agents. But I think the most important thing that a younger agent perhaps might bring to the table is, the perspective of being a younger person in this day and age with all the technology and social media that's around. Just really understanding how people function around social media and different technologies that are, around in today's world. But definitely, like Max said, the hunger and the drive to be successful, while still maintaining the quality despite any amount of experience you might have, because you do have mentors and other people around you.
Yeah, again, this is a business that we run around in every day, and we bump into so many different type of people. We're trying to farm new business. We're trying to keep up with the business we already have, whatever. Ryan, what advice would you give, younger agents who are younger people, rather, who are thinking about a career in real estate? I always use the example when I teach continuing ed. So that's, agents who are at least in this business 2 years or more,
Right.
because we have to renew our license every 2 years. Yeah. But right next door, in the classroom right next door, when I see the amount of younger folk and even older people going into these classes to become real estate agents, I think to myself all the time, why?
Yeah.
What are they thinking of? What do they want? I mean, do they think, somebody mentioned earlier, $1 million listing, I will say it again.
Right.
Okay? Everybody thinks you're going to have these grand old parties, you're going to have car service, they're going to schlep you all over town,
Right.
you're going to make zillions of dollars. They used to put the commission amount on the bottom of the screen. I'd be like, stop it. Why? I mean, so, what gives? What advice do you give these people who say, I want to be a real estate agent? Do you ask them why?
I think asking them why is very important, and remembering too that do you love this? This is going to be the hardest thing that you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you see on TV. Nothing. I love $1 Million Listing. It's fun to watch, right? You have to do it because you like it, right? And you have to love people. You have to, because it is a people business. You have to interact with people. And I would just also say too to not give up. And it's going to take a lot of work. You might get lucky and be one of those few who in your first few months close a deal. I'm going to be honest, it took me 11 months to close my first deal. 11 months, and that was a rental. And people, they say the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Maybe I am. But, keep at it. If you love it and you love what you do, as they say, you'll never work a day in your life. If you love what you do, never work a day in your life. Keep at it, and understand that it's not going to be easy. As I said, unless you do get lucky, make the connections. Know who you are, establish yourself not only as a real estate agent, but who your brand is. What do you stand for as a real estate agent? But just know that it's, there's so many things out there today about the industry. It's very hard, and you have to love it. You have to love every single minute of it. And if you do love it, don't give up. Just keep, you're going to get it. They always say you get a million no's to get that one yes. You're going to get a million no's, and it takes that one yes to make a difference. So keep that in mind.
Keep those boots on the ground. Mike, so your thoughts on what you would say to newer agents who come to you and say, hey, you seem like you know what you're doing. You seem like you're super successful. How can I do the same? And what would you say to me?
So first things first, I just want to say I'm really impressed you went 11 months because the
Thank you.
grit to actually keep going is
lots of failed deals, lots of getting to the almost finish line. Yeah, it's
no, this is very cool.
Thank you.
The one thing I say
That's
to people,
determination.
That is,
thank you.
and that's what you need in this business, without a doubt.
Determination or craziness? Who knows?
A little bit of both.
Hey, a
All
little
of
bit
the
of both.
above.
Okay.
No, but I'm sure you were adapting between deals. You're not doing the same thing over and
No,
over.
yeah,
You're growing, you're changing. To new agents, I always say, which is a theme that we've kind of touched on, is it's not glamorous. I talk with friends and they're like, you made X amount on one deal. And I'm like, yeah, but I suffered for 6 months trying to get that deal, It is an amazing job. It's a fun industry. It can be glamorous, but 90% of the time it's not. You're on calls, you're about to fall down, you're running to I've sprinted to buildings and begged the doorman. I'm like, please let me. So, look, I see why people get into it, and I encourage them to get into it. Because I don't think real estate is really a zero-sum game. I think we can all do very, very well, and I think we can all have a great time. I'll never discourage anyone. That's the way I look at it.
Especially when you look at some of these agents who get into it. I'm sure we've all seen it. Who are like, oh, if they could do it, so can I.
No,
right?
exactly.
Well, that's exactly right. And I agree with you. I wouldn't discourage anybody either. It's a lot of hard work ethic, and again, if you can rely on those people who are in front of you and ahead of you to kind of learn from, everybody who approaches this business or any industry for that matter, you have to want to learn.
Yep.
You can't approach it saying, I know everything. Oh, I know how to sell apartments. Or what does it take? Whatever. Oh, really? Okay, it takes an awful lot. Max, what advice, when someone comes to you and says, hey, I've been watching you, you're doing well, you seem to like what you do. That's the other thing too, okay? I think you are all successful as most successful agents because you like what you're doing, as hard as it can be, as trying as it can be every day, but you like it.
And
right?
you have to. I think that's the case in most careers, but especially in this, you can't coast and kind of be like your heart's not in it. It's not the industry to do that in. Just adding on to what Mike says, I've joked, about this is not as glamorous as it's always made out to be. You wear a lot of hats. I've cleaned apartments. I've moved furniture. You're a handyman. You are sometimes a marriage or family counselor when there's there's a lot of different hats that you have to wear.
It's so true.
Yep.
I know earlier we talked about, and one of the nice things in the business is being your own boss. But one thing I do tell people who are getting into the business is I don't think it's the worst idea to join an established team. And we talked about teams early on for a few reasons. One, you learn under someone more senior. You have a mentor. Two, it can be very, as we said, as I mentioned, it's eat what you kill. But if you join a team, sometimes depending on your structure of how you get paid, it makes sure you can pay your rent and put food on your table those first 6 or 12 months, when sometimes you can go 11 months without doing a deal, right? And I think when you decide to go on your own, especially if you had been working with a more established broker or team, it gives you a little bit more bona fides when you go to pitch somebody or whatnot, saying, I worked with this broker, I took that knowledge and now I'm able to use it on my own.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. Guys, honestly, so well said. It's amazing how, being so young and new in the business that you can kind of, sort that out and kind of flush that out and kind of understand.
It becomes very clear.
It becomes very clear, and it's 11 months waiting for the first gig. Running to buildings and doing whatever, cleaning apartments. We've all been there. We've all done that.
And not everyone makes it, as you know too.
Everyone. Well, that's
the thing. I'm almost entering 2 years now, and the other day my senior director at my office said, he's like, you're one of the small statistics. You've made it, right? Once you make it past like the first 18 months or the first 2 years, you're usually good to go. Most agents after.
Yeah. All right. Listen, we got to take a break. We're back with more. No one's going anywhere. We're coming back to talk social media, my favorite topic. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. We will be right back. Okay, everybody, we are back. Just a couple of things before we talk about social media. Here are 6 things that I say a startup agent, young or any age coming into the business, needs to know to get in the game and to stay in the game, okay? A lot of it based on what you guys said. See as many apartments as possible when you first start out. Study listings and neighborhoods. I remember when I first became an agent, I looked at all the listings, even when I didn't have a client. I looked at all the listings on the database. I looked at all the neighborhoods so I can, and I'm a New Yorker for years and years and years, but I still want to know what's what out there, right? Tour new construction sales offices, right? New construction, new developments, new condo developments. Go, open house Sundays. Look at all the different homes. You might get a phone call that says, hey, I want to buy a new condo in a new construction building. I got the right one for you, right? I know it's tedious, but the paperwork that goes along with this job, and I think Max mentioned this before, board packages. Do a couple of practice board packages. Get familiar with what the process is, because it's a lot of work, okay? Start reading blogs, press, and industry news. There is so much out there in industry news. Or chief economist down the hall here, he puts out more numbers, and I read them all this morning. There's so much information out there because knowledge is power, right? Listen to podcasts. Hello, Talking New York Real Estate. You're going to get a good education on that. And practice doing, financial disclosure statements. When you first start working with clients, you need to know who they are, what they're worth, because the worst thing you do is you get all the way down in a deal and a contract goes out and you realize you only have down payment money. How are you going to pass a board? Okay, you have no assets or no liquid cash after closing, which all boards look for. So do some homework, understand what it's all about, and go from there. All right, social media marketing. Mike, as I said before, I found you because of social media, and every time I would sign on to either TikTok or Instagram, whatever, I'd see all these apartments, whatever. You are a master at it. You are a pro at it. You have quite the following. I mean, it's staggering, the amount of numbers.
Yeah, thank you.
How did you get into that? What motivated you to do that? More importantly, what are you getting out of it?
Yeah, so
I mean, it's really amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I thought social media was a joke for the longest time. Like, I had family members who wanted to go viral on social media, and I was like, that's ridiculous. I just, I was kind of getting to a point in my career where I was like, I need to find another direction to go in. And I started posting these apartments on TikTok every day just because I'm in the apartments regardless. Like, to your point, just going out every day and seeing different stuff. After this, I have a change of clothes. I'm going to put on like jeans and a t-shirt, and I'm going to go tour 6 or 7 different buildings just because you need to, and I'm going to get videos of them. And I went for 6 months. I'm telling you, like 250 views, no engagement, not a single client, nothing. And people thought I was ridiculous, like wasting so much time. And finally, it started to pick up. And it's obviously grown past that. We've almost 150,000 followers across platforms, which is awesome. We reach in the ballpark of 5 to 10 million people every month. So it's great. And, the number one thing I get out of it is it's a ton of fun, and it gets me onto platforms like this, which is probably the best.
But I found you.
Yeah. Vince Rocco discovered me.
There's a thought, right?
Yeah. Right. But more than anything, it's just this huge surge in new clients that I get, and I get to work with some of the most interesting people. The best part of my job is I love chatting with people and being like, what do you do for work? And it's great because, again, social media, everyone's on it. So it's such a diverse clientele. I'm constantly talking to different people who want different things, who've had different experiences. And it's the best thing that could have happened to me, without a doubt.
One of the things I find with social media, too, is you really don't know who's looking.
Yeah.
Right? Because it can be so anonymous. You might have all of these followers, all of these people paying attention, but you really don't know who might be looking at something or what it might turn out to be down the road, right? You get lots of leads.
Yeah.
That's a great thing. Rye, what in your business, or how rather, does social media either help or hurt? Because I've heard some agents say it really doesn't do anything for me, and maybe I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm kind of like, well, maybe you don't know what you're doing. Okay, that's fair enough. You kind of learn maybe a little more. What is it doing for you? Do you use it often?
Yes. So I say social.
I mean, hold on. I saw something that you posted this morning. The world is my oyster. If you
Yes.
want to know anything about real estate, come and find me. I mean,
Yes.
these are the things that, we do as real estate agents, right?
It is. It is. I always say social media is a double-edged sword. If I didn't have to use it, I would. But I work in an industry, both here and with the Broadway editorial stuff I do, that you need it. And I think it's been helpful because I use it to get myself out there, both property-wise, but also what I do, who I am, what I stand for, how I help clients, and that's really what it's about. And but it can also be harmful. Yes, if you don't use it right. There's a lot that I still don't know. I say to people, I've mastered Instagram. I'm still learning on that TikTok train. I've had a few things go viral, which is an interesting beast. But if you don't know, learn. I'm taking a lot of courses right now from some different agents in the industry who have a big social media presence. And I think obviously using it responsibly too, right? I know that we can sometimes use social media for not good causes. And I think that's one of the negative parts is agents have to be careful, I think, how they use it. What you say as well in your videos is also important too, how you're describing something being accurate and not misleading, while also obviously, disclosing what you can on a client aspect.
Talk a little bit about the feedback that you may get from social media, okay? Because it's one thing to post, it's one thing to maybe even do it well, but what kind of feedback do you get? Because I know when I'm teaching social media, again, in continuing it, a lot of people say to me, I post, nobody likes. Well, that's just a thing, okay? Right. We know that. But as I said to Mike a minute ago, you never know who's watching, right? So, and the leads come fast and furious.
Yes.
What feedback do you get?
I would love the feedback to be more, but the feedback that I do get is from a lot of people that a lot of them are like, I didn't know you're still in real estate, which is always, I'm like, yes, I am. But the feedback for a lot of people are, oh my God, the property's so pretty. Or I've had people say, oh, I didn't, know this. And then a question and answer sort of will engage in terms of, questions they had about the real estate. Also, sometimes the feedback, especially on comments, if I'm sharing a reel or something to another partnering site, such as like Apartments NYC or stuff like that, sometimes the feedback is, oh my God, this is hideous. Why would you post this? Or what are they thinking? Everybody's got an opinion.
Right?
But I think, the feedback that I've gotten, obviously, you hear all the time of agents, that I got this deal through social media. You never know who is following, but it does seem at times you are throwing spaghetti against the wall, seeing what sticks, because you're not seeing that instant feedback. But I think it's, learning how you approach that reel or that post or whatever to make it engaging enough to get the feedback. But the ones that I've received when I have gotten it have mostly been, oh, how much is this? Or, tell me a little bit more. And I've had some really great conversations, and some people who have even, been prospects as well. So.
Kevin, what does social media mean to you? What are you learning from others who are posting, and what's the feedback you're getting from posts that you put out there?
I'm always super impressed when I see agents, like they come up on my feed, they put up something really cool, and I see them in person, at a party or at the office or something. I'm like, hey, like I saw you on social media, like I already know who you are. So I think it's super important to stay like top of mind with people. When you're in someone's thought and they're seeing you constantly on like a weekly basis, or they know that you're the knowledge broker, they know that you know the area, they know that you work, this specific niche. I think that's super important. It's almost like a portfolio of who you are, and that's always super helpful for people to know who you are.
I agree.
Yeah.
So Max, in your opinion, how has social media changed the landscape of what we do here in New York City, or real estate anywhere, but we focus here in New York City? How, in your opinion, has social media really changed the landscape of our business?
I found, kind of going a little off what Kevin just said, I found that it's more important for the broker's personal brand than, have we gotten some leads through posting apartments? Yes, but for the most part, I think it's actually really more important for the broker's brand, because especially it depends on what, if you take a video of like a $4,000 a month rental, there are going to be a lot of those viewers, or they could be a potential person who wants to rent that. But if we post a video of like a $5 million listing, almost everybody who's seeing that is not actually in the market to buy that. but it helps promote your brand, right? And like, this is what I have to offer. Like, if you meet someone, as you said, at a party or something, and someone's like, hey, I know you from social media, that's really valuable, as opposed to just, here's this rental, I'm trying to get rid of, I'm trying to sell it through social media. That works, I think, depending, like I said, that works with a rental, but I think it's more important from a more macro, like, brand perspective on marketing yourself than the actual listing.
You're 1,000% correct.
I think also what you said is like, oh, you still work in real estate, people need to know that you're still around.
Right.
Right.
Which is why consistency is important, It's,
right. And Mike, you probably can answer this better than it. Like, if you've had a lot of people reach out about specific listings, or more they just want to know you and, like, hey, I've seen you posting, it comes up on my For You page on TikTok or Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, so typically when the way that we have it set up is people will reach out, and instead of saying like, what listing did you see, I just say, tell me about your apartment search, give me price, location, move-in date. But you're 100% right. It's, if I'm posting a $10 million apartment or $5 million apartment, the hope, my philosophy at least, is I want to cast such a wide net that at least if one person who could afford it sees it, I did my job. I've had situations where some 12-year-old kid will send it to their parent and go, look at how cool this apartment is. And then the parent calls me and I'm like, okay, amazing. But yeah, there's a few types of videos. There's videos, to your point, that build your brand, but then there's videos that, normal people can actually afford, and they go, hey, I want this apartment.
Right.
And that's what it is, and you have to keep a balance. And real quick, I just want to touch on something that you said is social media is the new Christmas card, kind of. Staying on top of people's mind is the most important thing.
Yes.
I don't know if I'll ever send a Christmas card, just because every time people log onto Instagram, they see I posted a story or I posted this. It's the best client outreach you could ever have, because people are always thinking, oh my, I should call Mike. I got to list my apartment. I got to rent an apartment. So
and you sort of become known as that broker too, right? So that's with your brand too. It's like, you're the guy who posts those cool things, or you're the guy, who goes in and does the crazy videos in that apartment, or has the, whatever it is, and you become sort of known as that person. And even if it's not, even if they don't list or buy or rent from you with that listing, it's still like, oh my God, you're the person who did X. And again, who knows what that comes down to, but it's that consistent content that they go on to see, and that just helps you validity wise, I think, too.
No, exactly.
Max mentioned it. You reinforced it. Brand. I love, excuse me, that word brand. And when I'm again teaching social media, I always start the class with asking everybody in the room, "Who are you?" And they kind of look at me like, "What are you talking about? What are you expecting me to answer? I know who I am." And sometimes people will say that, and I'm like, "No, you don't. Who are you? What do you bring to the table? Why are you different than the next person?" We talked about it, all morning here. We are in an industry filled with thousands and thousands and thousands of competitors. What is your brand, and who are you? And how do you get it out there? I mean, I know what you do on social media, but how do you get it out there every day? In a brand sense.
A lot of people know me as the ice maker guy. I don't know if anyone's ever seen my videos. That probably sounds insane. I just started pointing out really cool ice makers, because I don't have an ice maker in my freezer. It's the dumbest thing possible, but it really caught on. I've bought so many clients ice makers, you have no idea.
Genius.
So that's what a lot of people say, but my biggest thing is, and one of the reasons that I keep doing this is just being transparent and honest with your client, I think is the best way to get a deal and get repeat deals. So, one thing with the videos was I always hated clients would send me a listing on StreetEasy with these generic photos that look nothing like the apartment. An apartment I've stood in, I'm like, that's not what it looks like at all. So I love the ability to be transparent, where I can post these videos, and in 60 seconds, clients see exactly what the apartment looks like, what the view looks like, what the finishes look like. There's nothing generic here. So I don't know if it is. I hope it is, and it's my goal to be. But I just want my brand to be, the really honest and transparent broker. And I think if you ask literally any of my clients, they'll tell you the exact same thing, which is, the biggest privilege of my life, that I could say that I've actually helped people and been honest. Because there's a lot of people, I always say, a lot of brokers try to retire off their next deal. They will charge as much as possible and do as little work sometimes. But that's a concern of mine,
Yeah. Rye, what is your brand, and how do you get that brand out there every day?
Yes. Well, brand is always ever evolving, especially for me. But my brand is, I'm your friend who helps you with what you need, right? People don't like being sold to; they like shopping with friends, as they always say, right? And so, in my past life, I was your Broadway and entertainment BFF. Here, I'm your go-to guy. I'm your friend in real estate that's going to help you and be your trusted advisor. I'm reliable, successful, creative, and helping you through this deal that like no one else will, right? During this process is stressful. I mean, no matter what you're doing, rental, sale, no matter how low or how high, and having somebody that understands every little niche, every little aspect of you is so important. And I always like to say I give my clients the red carpet treatment. I'm on a lot of red carpets. I'm the red carpet real estate guy who helps and gives people that red carpet experience. So when they leave me after that deal, they know that oh my gosh, this was sick, this was stressful. I had a lot of issues, in the overall deal, but Rye was so great and so helpful, and I felt loved, appreciated, and obviously he did what he had to business-wise, but he was just a great person, and that's sort of how I define myself. Obviously, brands are ever-changing, and now finding the success that I have over these last several months, that is also constantly evolving as well.
The world is your oyster.
Yes, the world is my oyster.
Okay.
Yes.
I loved it when I saw that.
Thank
this
you.
morning. What is your brand?
Well, first I have to say, I think, not every real estate transaction is cookie cutter. So I think that's why it's important to curate the experience. And so I think that's what I preach, is that I curate the experience for whoever I'm working with to really understand what they're looking for and what they need.
Perfect.
And I think that's everything. Really understanding what your client's looking for, what they need, what their goals are, and working as best as you can to achieve those goals.
Max?
So I would say that I provide like an inside New York knowledge, right? I as I mentioned, I'm born and raised here. You mentioned right before this, knowledge is power. And I think that's really important in our industry, especially as it changes with Street Easy becoming so prevalent and buyers and sellers thinking they know better, right? Because they're like, well, I can look at comps on Street Easy now. So it's having that knowledge of neighborhoods and buildings that you don't get through Street Easy. That like, hey, you said you love this building, this apartment looks great. I know there's a subway entrance right there. So if you don't want it to be super busy, I don't think you should look there. Or this is a double wide street that doesn't have any city buses, which is quite rare. That's an amazing street to be on because you get a lot of light, but you don't get the noise. And I think that type of knowledge, which you gain, I know you mentioned from like going to new developments, walking through 50 doors a week is really, I think, critical, especially in this new age where clients and buyers and sellers think they know as much as you just because of the advent of Street Easy and things like that.
Very well said. And you can't buy that New York knowledge, easily, right? And if you're working with somebody who's got that and who comes from, this town, that's amazing. We're going to go a minute over, and the reason I say that is because I want to ask one more question of all of you. It's part of my secret sauce, segment. Rye, who is the living person you admire most?
The living person I admire most.
You weren't prepped for this, so
no,
think about it.
Yeah. The living person I admire most right now is, I would have to say, Oprah Winfrey. I know that may sound generic, but the success that has begotten her, the hard work, the determination that she puts out to grow to be, the first Black woman billionaire. I've always admired her from a kid, and also as a talk show host perspective too. But I look at her and I instantly just see success, entrepreneurship, and she's somebody living that I look up to.
And you could learn from.
And could learn from as well, yes.
Kevin?
I would say my parents. My parents are immigrants, and they are the ultimate example of determination for me.
Yay to immigrants.
Yeah.
Max?
Being a big basketball fan, I would say from when I was growing up, always Michael Jordan, which I know also sounds a little cliche, but that's just like the determination and will to always be better and do better. And then even, after you win something, the next day being like, okay, what can I do now to win again or to be better? And you have to do that with you close a big deal, you might feel really great, but you have to keep going or else you can't sit on your laurels.
Last gig.
Exactly.
What's next?
Remember that one.
Right.
Mr. Mike? Who's the person you most admire in life?
That is so tough.
It is.
Look, I could get, the first thing that comes to my mind, obviously, is like my mother, my brother, my sister, my girlfriend. I adore all these people. If we're talking about someone that like I really look up to and admire that, I don't have direct contact with, for whatever reason, Trevor Noah, who is the former host of The Daily Show, I love Trevor Noah. I respect him so much.
As do I.
Yeah, he's such an honest guy. He looks for the best in everything and everybody.
Wow.
And, just something I respect. So if I had a little bit more time, I'd hope I'd come up with a better answer. But I'm pretty content with Trevor Noah. He's a good guy. Yeah. He's a good guy. His comedy
He's a great guy,
yeah.
and sad that he decided to give up his show, for God's sakes.
We got Jon Stewart back, though.
We do,
Which,
but only one day a week.
I know,
Only one
I
night
know.
a week. I know. I love. Who doesn't love Jon Stewart?
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
One day
yeah.
a week. All right, listen, that's it. Kevin, Rye, Mike, Max, wow, what a conversation. That was terrific. We will be right back with my closing remarks. All right, we're back with my closing thoughts for this week. So, making a frittata with eggs fresh from your backyard chicken coop is the ultimate farm-to-table experience. And raising chickens in Brooklyn, in a Brooklyn backyard, is easier than you might think. Chicken coops are becoming increasingly more popular for Brooklyn owners who want to go a step further than just having a plain old backyard vegetable garden. And local chicken owners say hens can be rewarding and relatively low maintenance as pets. Roosters, though, are illegal in New York City. We thought it would be fun as a hobby, said one owner who has raised chickens behind his Boerum Hill townhouse for the past 8 years. They have 2 young children who thought it would be fun to have as pets, and having fresh eggs to the table is a wonderful experience. Trust me, I make frittata all the time. What's in a chicken, you ask? Who knows? Ask them. And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks to my guests for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, or TikTok at Vince Rocco, or my website, thinkvince.com. Confucius says, choose a job you like and you will never have to work a day in your life. And the only person you should try to be better than is the person you were yesterday. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I appreciate it, and I am humbled. We will see you next time.